Welcome to The Story Within. Today's story is inspired by the events surrounding the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus as recorded in the Holy Bible, Luke chapter 22, verse 26, Luke chapter 23, verses 32 to 33, and Luke chapter 24, verses 1 to 6. Our story today is told by Demas, the owner of the upper room, Joanna, Demas's wife, and Rhoda, the adulterous young woman who had been forgiven by Jesus. So now, listen as Demas begins telling the story within.
My name is Demas, and this is a story about my family and the changes Jesus made in our lives. After our newborn baby died in a tragic accident, my wife Joanna became a follower of Jesus, believing him to be the promised Messiah. She believed he healed her from the deep depression following the death of our child. On the other hand, that sad event has left me bitter and resentful, with a total disregard for my earlier faith in God. Some 3 years after Joanna's first encounter with Jesus, he came back to Jerusalem. Joanna went to the temple to hear him speak, and while there, she met a young homeless girl named Rhoda. Jesus had saved Rhoda from certain death at the hands of her accusing enemies. Joanna's tender heart reached out in love to this young woman, and after learning that she had no home, she invited her to come and live with us. It didn't take long for Rhoda to become a loved and accepted part of our family. A few days later, some of Jesus' disciples came to our small hotel to make arrangements with Joanna for Jesus and his closest disciples to celebrate the Passover in our upper room. At that time, I was not a follower of Jesus. I was more concerned about my own safety and possible damage to my property. I feared the temple authorities might take action against Jesus while he was in my upper room. On one occasion, when Rhoda insisted, I went with her to hear him speak and witnessed how his words inflamed the chief priest. So needless to say, I was pleased and relieved when they finished their meal and left our place of business that night without incident. At last they are gone. But they did not have to call attention to themselves by singing. It's late. If the priests didn't know they were here before, I'm sure they will soon. I hope they won't ask to meet here again.
Dear, I'm sorry that the presence of Jesus caused you concern. Possibly, I should not have agreed for them to meet here without your permission.
That's all right, my dear. They are gone, and thankfully there was no damage done. But please don't let them come here again.
Jesus will not return. He will die soon. I have no idea what will happen to his disciples.
Where does she think she's going?
To be near him.
She should not be out there alone. It's dangerous.
She doesn't care about danger. She loves him more than life itself. She'll be all right.
I knew in my heart what I had just said to Demas and Joanna was true. The certainty of my words about Jesus' death cut through me like a knife. Dear Lord, I prayed, let me find him. Please lead me to him. The streets were strangely empty as I made my way through the twisting maze of Jerusalem. Somehow, my steps led me outside the city walls to the gate of a garden named Gethsemane. As I entered the garden, I noticed several sleeping figures lying on the ground. I continued to walk, and then I saw Jesus kneeling in prayer. Knowing I should not intrude, I stopped. It seemed to be a holy place into which I dare not enter. For what seemed like hours, I watched him from a distance as he obviously agonized. Although I could not hear his words, it was painful just to watch the suffering expressed by his body language. Then, out of the still blackness of the night, a group of Roman soldiers, led by Judas, descended like a mob upon him. The fury of their attack, followed by the horrible evil throughout the remainder of that night and the next day, cannot be described or explained in human terms. Nothing made any sense. It was as if the whole of mankind had gone mad, betrayed by one of his own, abandoned by others, denied by his closest friend, and subjected to the indignity of a mock trial. Lies upon lies. Oh, how we suffered! At last, I found myself sitting on the garbage heap at the foot of the cross, upon which he hung. Off to my right, a flock of black-robed priests derided him.
You saved others! Save yourself, Messiah! Hail King Jesus, King of the Jews!
To my left, I recognized Jesus' young follower, John, with a weeping woman by his side. Later, I learned that she was the heartbroken mother of Jesus. I recall my thoughts at that time. How awful, how strange, how did I get here? Then a sense of deep gratitude flooded over me like warm honey, and I heard myself whisper, "Thank you, my Lord, thank you, my God, for dying for me. You knew all along that you were going to die, didn't you? But you found me first. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Then I heard a familiar voice calling my name.
Rhoda, at last we found you.
Joanna and Demas, both with tears streaming down their cheeks, reached out and affectionately embraced me.
Thank God you're all right, my child. We have been so worried about you.
The three of us huddled at the foot of the cross, and at that moment we became a family. Then the soldiers came and drove us back.
Come, let's move out of the way. Rhoda, we know you don't want to leave, but we would like to stay with you.
As we were moving away, one of the thieves being crucified with Jesus began to call out to him,
"If you're the Son of God."
My attention had been focused so completely on Jesus, I had not even glanced at the two thieves on either side of him. When one of them spoke, I froze in place and involuntarily whispered, "I know that voice," then fell into Demas's arms and fainted.
Poor child, this is all just too much for her. She has had very little sleep for days. Here's a clean spot, dear. This would be a good place to lay her down.
She loves him so very much, doesn't she? But it was when that thief spoke that she collapsed. I'm not strong enough to carry her home, so we'll just have to wait until she revives. Let me take you back a moment and tell you about the conversation Joanna and I had after Rhoda went out in the night to look for Jesus. Joanna told me more about this man Jesus and the peace and hope she had experienced through faith in him. I asked a few questions which she answered sweetly and sincerely. Her words had consumed my thinking for the rest of the night and into the following day. Just moments before finding Rhoda at the foot of the cross, I had confessed to my wife that I believed he is who he claimed to be. A soft, welcome peace spread through me, and I immediately understood the joy that the women had described to me. Rhoda was lying unconscious across our laps as life slowly ebbed from Jesus. At last he cried out and slumped in death. The earth quaked under us as though it were alive, and the sky became black as night. Rhoda woke with a start. Shocked and frightened, the three of us held each other for comfort. We sat in utter darkness for nearly 3 hours. Finally, the afternoon sun brought welcome light to the gruesome scene. All 3 men were dead. Rhoda sprang to her feet and moved quickly towards the crosses as the Roman soldiers began removing the bodies. We followed. She did not go to Jesus at first. Instead, she examined the face of one thief, then the other.
The thieves.
Yes. What about the thieves?
They are my brothers.
Oh, my dear sweet child. I'm so sorry, so very sorry.
If only I had looked in their direction earlier. If only I could have spoken to them. If only.
Rhoda, please don't punish yourself. I know what you're thinking, but this may ease your pain to some extent. The thief, your brother, who was at the cross at Jesus' right, called out to Jesus before he died. And our Lord told him so lovingly, "This day you shall be with me in paradise."
You're sure of this? But not the other brother? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, dear. Although your repentant brother made every effort to convince him, I am afraid he died without forgiveness. I am so sorry.
I have another confession to make to the both of you. The horrible man who was released at the insistence of the crowd so that Jesus would be crucified, the murderer named Barabbas, that is my uncle, my father's brother. He lives while the ones I loved died.
Look, over there. I know that man. That's Joseph of Arimathea. It appears the Romans are turning Jesus' body over to him. He may need some help. Many of Jesus' followers seem to have vanished. I guess they were fearful to be identified with him, even in death.
Yes, let's go and see if we can help.
I followed Demas and Joanna, and as we stepped forward to offer our assistance to Joseph of Arimathea, several others also came to help. The young apostle John cradled Jesus' head lovingly in his hands. Demas was holding his shoulder on one side, while James, the brother of Jesus, was opposite him holding the other shoulder. Joanna held his feet. Both of my hands supported the small of his back. A handsome young man with soft eyes stood opposite me as Joseph of Arimathea directed us toward a place away from the crowd. He had brought water, clothes for bathing, and grave clothes with which to wrap the body of our Lord. Lovingly and reverently, Joseph of Arimathea began to wash and clean the awful wounds which had been inflicted. Then, starting at the feet, he encircled the lifeless form with the grave clothes. I could not restrain my sobs through this entire process.
Rhoda, you need to rest. I can take your place now.
What did you call her? Did you say Rhoda?
Yes, I am Rhoda. Do you know a Rhoda? Who are you?
Yes, I knew a Rhoda. She was my sister. I'm Tobiah.
For a moment, in total disbelief, I stood gazing at him, unable to speak, remembering my darling little brother who had grown up after I had been taken away from the family. How appropriate that we should be reunited by the body of Jesus.
The two of you need some time alone. We have more than enough help here. Why don't you find a quiet place where you can talk?
And talk we did, and held each other and cried and laughed and kissed one another's tear-stained cheeks. So intense were our emotions and our hunger for information, we did not even notice that they had carried the body of Jesus away. Oh my, where did everyone go?
I'm sure we can find them. Take my hand. I'll help you.
Hand in hand we walked through the gathering shadows of early evening. As I occasionally glanced at my brother's profile, the family resemblance became evident. He had the strong, rugged features of our father, and when I looked directly into his eyes, I could see the soft and gentle eyes of our mother. There was no doubt that this was my younger brother. At long last, we were together again. We finally overtook the mournful procession just as they arrived at the gravesite. Joseph of Arimathea had originally purchased this burial site for his own use, but he devotedly provided it now for the body of Jesus to be laid to rest. As we sadly watched, they placed the lifeless form of our Lord on a cold stone slab in a rich man's tomb. Reluctant to accept the finality of his death, they hesitantly rolled a large stone in front of the entry to the tomb.
We can do no more. Come, it's time to leave this place. Tobiah, your sister lives with us now. Would you consider making our home your home also?
Thank you, Demas. Are you certain? I do not wish to impose.
You are more than welcome. We have plenty of room. We love your sister so dearly, and Demas has always wanted a son.
Good morning, Tobiah. Did you sleep well?
Very well, thank you.
Joanna, Rhoda, and Mary Magdalene left very early to obtain embalming supplies for Jesus' body.
It will do them no good. Yesterday, I was at his tomb. It has been sealed, and the Romans have posted armed guards at the entrance. They won't be able to get past them.
Roman guards? What on earth for?
The reason they gave us, they don't want his disciples to steal his body and then claim he is risen from the dead. You know, Jesus promised that he would rise again.
No, I didn't. Did he really say that? He said he would rise from the dead?
Indeed, I heard him, and I believe he will.
Get your sandals on, Tobiah. Come, let us go. I want to see what's going on at the tomb. There is so much more I want to know about him.
And there's so much more I would like to share with you. We can talk as we go.
Rhoda, Mary Magdalene and I hurried along the way to meet the other women. It was only moments after sunrise when we neared his tomb. We had awakened the merchant from sleep to purchase nearly 75 pounds of embalming oils and spices. It took all of us to carry it. Mary Magdalene and Rhoda were the first to arrive at the tomb.
Look, Mary, the stone has been removed from the entrance to the tomb. Mary, where are you going? Are you actually going inside?
He's gone. His body is gone. Look, Rhoda. Someone has taken him away.
Dropping our precious supplies, we all rushed to see ourselves. Confused, troubled, crushed by the total weight of events of the past several days, we fell to the ground in grief. He was gone. We had even been denied this final act of devotion. From out of the tomb, 2 men in glowing robes emerged.
Why are you crying?
Because they have taken away our Lord, and we do not know where to find him.
This Jesus of Nazareth whom they crucified is no longer dead. God has raised him from the dead. Now go and tell his disciples and the others that Jesus is alive.
For the next 40 days, he appeared to many, many people. First on the road to Emmaus, then by the Sea of Galilee, and later in our upper room. Finally, he sent word for us to meet him on a mountain just east of the city. There, he gave us the Great Commission to go into the world and said, "I will always be with you." Then, in one glorious moment, he ascended to his Father in heaven.